All right. Hello. Welcome back to Hot Girl Book Club. Very excited about this one. And today I have my good buddy Jela with us from While Love's Lit.
Thanks, pal.
You got it, buddy. Would you like to give your like a little channel overview and what you typically read and who you are in this big space marvel?
Right, the space marble. Hi, I'm Jela. Channel is Lala Loves Lit, as was just introduced. I typically read a lot of speculative fiction, so this was definitely right up my alley. I like to read fantasy, sci-fi, horror, and I've never actually read mermaid books before, so this was a first for me. Very interesting. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Nice. Awesome. I'm so happy to have you here. I think I have read like two other mermaid books, and I was thinking about it as I was reading this, like, damn, this is not like a fantasy niche that I've read very much of, and I was having a blast.
What are the other two?
I read one that was like one was like a trashy YA novel from like
Oh,
2015, and the other was also that. But I read it more recently and I didn't like it. It has like an octopus on the cover and it's the Kingdom something.
oh, To Kill a Kingdom.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I thought you were gonna say like The Deep, which is that one of which has a similar theme of like slavery and the people born of the water and stuff like that. But no,
Yeah.
just trashy YA. Love that.
No, just trashy YA. So literally it was like, okay, like well done mermaids. Cool.
Well, I was obsessed with H2O as a kid,
Yes.
and like honestly, not even as a kid. As a grown woman, I'm still obsessed with H2O. But I grew up on that show, and like I would rewatch it constantly. So I'm surprised I'm not more drawn to them. But yeah, I love mermaids, but I don't read about them.
Did you ever play mermaids as a kid?
Did I ever play mermaids as a kid? Not only that, I played it so much that when I went to college, a freshman in college, my mom got me this knit blanket that's like shaped like a mermaid's tail that I never pulled
No.
out because I was a freshman in college and I wanted to have friends. But, I had it. It was with me.
Wow. I love it.
Commitment.
Um, to this day, the best conversation I've had with like a child at work, where like I work at a winery, so I don't get to talk to a lot
I
of
was like,
children.
wait,
And
what?
usually, no, it's like the parents come in and sometimes they have like a kid with them, and usually that kid has an iPad in their hands. So sometimes I'll get to actually talk to the kid. And months ago, there was like this sweet little girl, and she's like this tall standing at the bar and she's like looking up at me and she's like, so if you were a mermaid, what color would your tail be and what would be your special power? It was the most wholesome thing ever and it
What
was
were
so
your answers? I have to know.
um I think I told her that my tail would be like orange and yellow
I see that.
and my special power would be talking to animals probably.
I feel like that's a given with being
Right.
a
Does
mermaid.
that just
You know
come with
what?
being half a fish?
Yeah, you are an animal. We all are. But anyways, okay, I will respect it.
What would your tail color and power be?
I have no idea. I've never thought about this. How have I never thought about this?
I
Actually,
know. I hadn't thought about it until that conversation with this like sweet 7 year old.
well, I feel like I don't want to rip off your answers, but I look really good in mustard yellow and like burnt
Yes.
orange tones. So maybe
We match.
maybe we match. But like mine
Yeah.
would be like a like I don't know. Is this? I have a blanket here. You can't really see the correct color, but maybe it's like a burnt orange or something. And then my power. Well, if we're thinking H2O, I think Ricky had the best power because she could heat things up. But
Yes.
I was obsessed with Cleo, so we're gonna do water telekinesis or whatever she had. I want
No, Cleo.
Cleo. Anyway,
Cleo.
I hope no Australians are watching.
Uh, maybe. Hi. Hello, Australians.
Hey, John, where you at?
Excited to have the conversation on this one. Same. Reading a sci fi book while I wait. Love to hear it.
I want to know what this book is.
Also multitasking, but doing laundry. That's usually me while I listen to audiobooks. Happy to have you both here. Oh, Under Fortunate Stars is the arc.
Okay, I will look into this.
I was so bummed by this one that I picked up Skin of the Sea to try for a better mermaid story. Oh no.
Yeah. Yes, H2O.
Oh, and The Deep, yeah. Absolutely on my list after finishing Sorrowland. I still have yet to read any River Solomon.
Same, I need to read them, but...
Yeah, on my list.
Sorrowland is definitely not where I would start, though. I've heard it's heavy.
Oh, dang.
But all right.
Well, speaking of heavy, what are your broad general thoughts and rating for Shallow Waters?
I gave this book 2 stars, my friend.
2 stars!
It was... I was laughing. And that's terrible, because this is a book about trauma and slavery and all this horrible stuff happening. But it's just kind of goofy. Not as a premise, but just the way the execution of it was very goofy to me, and it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like it did justice to what the author's intentions were, which, since you read that interview or watched that interview, I'm very curious to know what you learned from it, or a part of it. But yeah, I actually, Museum Grack, I read her Goodreads review, and I agree with a lot of what she said. So
Oh, really? Okay, I'll have to check it out. I think I'm gonna go with like a very lukewarm 3 stars for me.
Okay.
Because like what you said, it just felt a little big for its britches, almost like I get that it was mythology, but it was for such a short book. It was really trying to do the most, and I understood, but also it was like, yeah, sometimes it just like went so far that it like goofy is like a strangely good
it's
word,
like wrong, but also
like it definitely not like the perfect word, but there were moments where I was like, this feels like sensationalized.
I would agree with that.
Look those up. I also did 3 stars. Okay, let's break this shit down. What did you think of like the opening and the like mythology and being in Yemeya's like eyes, seeing everything as a mermaid?
Honestly, it's a blur. I feel like it was so quick. Like, she was a mermaid for like 2.5 seconds, and then she was human for the rest of the time. And like the problem I have with this, like the first problem I have with the book is that it's a love story, I guess, when it didn't really need to be a love story, and the love was very forced. And so the entire, the catalyst, the jumping off point of this book is that she falls in love with a man that we don't see for the entire book, and like that they barely interacted when she was a mermaid and he was how old was he? Do you remember? He was a kid, or was he not a kid?
He was a kid and she was a kid, right. And he like rescued her, and then she like watches him grow up,
right?
And then they're both like 17-ish, I think.
Okay, and so that was, I want to make sure, because I mostly listened to this on audiobook, but basically like he rescued her from a net, and then like she watched him grow up, and then the only other interaction they had after that was when the pirates came, right? Or the slavers. I don't really know if they accurately called them pirates, but
yeah, I think so, because they I think that was it. Like she watches him, and it's like implied that he also has this connection with her, and then they like are tied together through like the Middle Passage and all of that. But I think I was not comparing, but like reading this book, I was thinking a lot about how much Greek mythology I read and how much I enjoy Greek mythology, because I have like a base knowledge about it, where I don't need everything to be like spelled out for me, or things just make sense because of like other Greek mythology that I've read. And so I was Googling a lot about these like goddess figures and like their like equivalent hierarchy and Oshun and all of those other things, because that was something that I didn't know going into it about Yemeya and Obatala. It was like, okay, this is like a thing that the book is about.
Okay, so what Brooke said down, like her last comment, it's basically referencing the original mythology? I didn't do any research, to be honest. Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. Because also, I feel like it should be able to stand on its own and like be
Yeah.
that like intro to this mythology. But I googled a lot. Yes, because there is even that part where maybe Tilly or one of the other like kids in the books was like, oh well, you have lots of children together. Maybe you just haven't got to that part in the story. And Yemaya is like, huh? What?
Yeah, how does everybody know about her except her?
That was just like her origin story. I think the comparison that clicked for me was like Circe, because I read Circe and it felt like it's just like this goddess becoming the goddess in Circe, and that this was very similar vibes for me.
And I will say, I don't read a lot of mythology. I'm definitely not used to that, and I haven't read Circe either. So, I was expecting her to know who she was, and it was weird to me that she didn't have any clue that she was this deity. I mean, I would get it if she was surprised that people in the United States knew who she was, and they'd be like, why have you been expecting me? Like, what? That's crazy. But to not have any idea about herself, which, to be fair, she was orphaned. I get it. But it was strange to read about.
Yeah. And Circe is the same way. That's like I had a lot of mixed feelings about Circe because
oh yeah, you didn't like it.
I liked it, but it just was like mixed because the book itself was like okay, but interlaying like the mythology and her being a goddess and it being this epic journey of a female goddess that is often overlooked was like okay, that like elevated it for me. And I think it was the same with this book, where like the story itself I think would have also been a solid 2 stars, but like looking into like the mythology and everything that was layered into it was like okay, that's cool, and that bumped it up a little bit for me.
Okay, maybe I would reconsider if I'd done a little bit of contextual. Did you read the author's note?
Yes.
Okay, I did not, because I was like, this is a lot to have at the beginning of the story. Let me just read the story first.
Yes, and that added a little bit for me too. Okay. Because it was basically her being like, I'm also like a spiritual teacher. And it was like her saying, that's kind of in the interview I'm watching too. She was like, this is me directly channeling Yaya into like this book. Gotcha. So she was explaining it as like, it was kind of cool and like very woo-woo for her to be like, yes, this book that I wrote directly channeled from the goddess herself. It was like, that is a bold claim, and I respect it.
It is a bold claim. I hope she did her justice.
And still have no chance to build up the connection for the reader.
The whole time, I was like, girl, get off your knees for this man. You don't know him. Like, you have not talked to him in years. Actually, this book takes place, what, over 2 weeks or something?
I think it's a couple months.
A couple months? It was very hard to tell.
It was hard to tell. The only marker that I really got was like at one point they go back to the plantation and the pregnant women now had like babies on their hips. So it's like, okay, at least a few weeks have passed. But that was like the only marker I think we really got. Yeah. And she said the cocoon took a few weeks.
That's what I was confused. Yeah, that was duh. Because it said like 40 days for the cocoon to do whatever, which I don't know. Obviously, I didn't want to sit in the dark for 10 pages while she turned into her human self. But I was just like, we really breezed through all this.
I think that was maybe the most confusing part for me, was where she wraps herself into the cocoon on like a dock or something. Mm-hmm. And then the next page is her waking up in this like native tribe around a bunch of other people, and the dock and the ocean is nowhere to be seen. Was like
I'm nowhere near the ocean anymore.
Yeah.
How did you get her?
Right. And eventually we all like figured that out, but it was definitely like a whiplash moment of, did I skip a chapter? Like what am I missing here?
I mean, when you say we figured out, it was just like the ancestors told them to go to her and bring her, and then that's how they knew exactly who she. I just thought it was very strange, like, to mix. I wouldn't expect Native Americans to know who Yemaya was, and so I would have loved to kind of like be taught more through that interaction instead of them just being like, you're this person and we've been expecting you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
that's kind of one of the things I felt was unbelievable. It was just like, why are they, these Native Americans who have their entirely different belief systems, explaining to her Orisha culture and stuff? I was just like,
I know,
that's
yeah.
the culture.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too. And like in the beginning of the book, there's like that timeline. Let's see if I could find it.
Oh yeah, I thought that was
Of
cool.
like all of the events that she kind of references.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember reading that and being like, okay, the Trail of Tears is on this timeline. Like, I wonder how that's going to come into like this story. And then so much of the book ended up being like influenced by those two different like tribes of natives, which was interesting, but also like same. I was kind of confused of like, what's the tie-in and like why would they know about her?
Yeah, for sure. There are lots of questionable things.
Yeah,
yeah,
questionable things. A mild tie-in. Yeah, it was definitely like a what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like a generous improvisation, I guess.
That's a good one.
Which I feel like a lot of mythology is when you think about how modernized like Greek mythology retellings have become, where I was trying to cut this book some slack to be like, okay, I read a lot of mythology and some of it I'm so familiar with. So it's like the one, not the one, but this book is like a book where I didn't have any background in the mythology. So I don't know how well it ties in or doesn't tie in because I haven't read any other like mythology from this kind of a sphere.
And I'm even more lost. Like I haven't even read Percy Jackson, is what I mean when I say I don't.
Oh, I haven't either.
You haven't? Oh wow. Okay.
No,
cool.
I DNF'd Percy Jackson.
Wow. So you and your hot take
on that. Yeah, I read the first one and it was like very mediocre, and then I DNF'd.
How old were you?
Like this recent. I was like in my early 20s, like maybe like 4 years ago, but I don't have the nostalgia attached to them, and I think that's part of it.
Okay. Well, I read the second book on accident instead of the first book. So that's why I was like, oops, can't go back now. And then I just never tried again.
Yes, and never explain how everyone knew her story but her. I would have liked that to be a little bit more clear.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense.
Yeah, it felt like we were leading up to that reveal, and I don't know, maybe I just wanted it to be spelled out a little bit more. Like, hey, silly, you're a goddess, and people have been praying to you all this time. But it was never, we never really had that moment.
I think part of it is just that the first interactions we see of that are not even like enslaved people who would be familiar with that because it's from their culture. It's just like random other people explaining it. It's not, I don't know, if she had run into, like, obviously we meet people along the way who are believers and who are followers and are like, oh, we like, you love the number 7 and your favorite color is blue and all this stuff. Yeah. And like they explain more, but yeah, just the people she chose to initially do the introductions were interesting.
Yeah, and part of me, this is why I have such mixed feelings. Like I really liked how like ritualistic so much of it was, and like how 7 came up so much, and like children came up so much, and like pregnant women came up so much, because those are all like her things. Like she is the goddess of those things, and the ocean and all of that. But also it was like, yeah, I needed another 100 pages. Where did that go? Yeah. But I thought that this story was the perfect length, but for me to like understand the mythology, I needed more.
I agree. Yeah. What is like it's not, the first Yemaya was not in the 1800s. So I do agree with this. What's going on here? That's a really good point.
I know, because we never really get more about her parents either. It just was like in the beginning, she says something like, my parents never told me what I was. My mother just said I would learn when I needed to learn it, which makes me think that it was like a cyclical thing or a reincarnation or something, which makes me think that.
Sorry.
Whoop.
Okay, so I actually don't think this needed 100 more pages. Like I agree with you that it was a good length.
Yeah.
I think the things that could have been taken out to make room for more of this, like what Elizabeth is talking about, are there were so many instances of brutality, which I understand because slavery is a brutal thing and like it's not going to be a pleasant experience.
But it was a lot.
It was a lot, right? And
Yeah.
even though it was a lot, like the certain parts, for instance, where she's in the dunking chair, that whole scene is just like, I was reading the audiobook, so I don't know, was it like 2 pages, 3 pages or something? But it's literally just like they ask her a question. They lower her into the water. She refuses to answer. And it's kind of like okay, well, you're not going to answer, so we push you down, fade to black. And then she's already rescued in the next chapter. And it's like, there was no stakes here. There was like, even I kind of forgot she was a mermaid for a second. So when they were saying, oh, we're going to put you in the water, I was like, oh no. But then she was like, oh, it's fine. I'm a mermaid. Do it. And I was like, oh, but like if you had let me be stressed for a second, that would have been a better way to like escalate the story. So anyway, my whole point being that I just felt like there were so many instances that meant nothing. And like, especially like when she got beat up in the prison, all this stuff. And I'm just like, we could have taken so many of these scenes out and made room for more mythology.
Agreed. Especially because there was so much like brutal violence, and then it's instantly her like magic healing powers come in and fix it. And it's like, okay, like I didn't want it to be like glossed over, but also it felt like she just got away with like fixing it easy breezy every time.
Yes, I agree. I want to say positive things too. But...
I know. I really do. Like there were parts that I like really like about it, and parts where it was like it just wasn't quite giving. But I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. It was like 2 weeks.
It felt, because it was so fast. Like one of the things I see a lot, and I worked for a children's imprint for a few months, and I read a lot of middle grade. Admittedly, I don't read middle grade for pleasure, so I don't read it outside of work. But when I was reading it, so much of it is just like you introduce a character, you introduce a character, you introduce a character that escalates the plot in some way, and it's very much like laid out for you because you're younger and you have to understand how they're going to play into the story. But that's kind of what this felt like. Every chapter, there's just a new character that we're meeting. We've left the old characters behind. Sometimes they come back, obviously, but it's just, it's just like, it's so fast. And as I said before, a lot of the scenes don't mean anything. There's no stakes because she has these powers that help her heal super quickly. And like even the dude who got her the freedom certificate.
Yeah, it dies immediately. What was that? What was that?
It's immediately shot. And I'm just like, what is going on?
Yeah, that was because she like opens the bars and then it's like, oh, I have like superhero strength. Oh, someone's coming in. Let me just close that really quick. And then he comes in and is like, oh, sits there all night in silence. And she's like, I'm scared of this guy. And it turns out the whole time he's forging her a freedom certificate. And then in the morning is like, here, I made this for you. It's to prove your freedom. I'm going to get shot in the back now. Like that whole scene was bizarre.
Bizarre. Super bizarre.
And then never used the freedom certificate.
And then like immediately gets ripped up by some other dude.
Yeah, that was strange.
Yeah. Anyways.
The passage took time. The cocoon took time. Then it was a mad rush across multiple states, but somehow only interacting with the same 5 people. Mm-hmm. I feel like she did a good job of showing that it was a bunch of different people, but she bounced back and forth between a couple of them. Like Ozata and Richard, we saw a few different times.
Tilly.
We hung out with Tilly like most of the book.
Yeah.
I wanted to love this book, but she didn't have enough time on the page to give the reader any context or rest between constant action for most of the story. I hard agree with that.
Definitely a lot of action. I can't ever say I was bored. I was just
It just got too it's like some books, especially like the final book in like an epic series or something, where it's like trying to wrap up all of the
It did
threads
feel like
with
a
just
final book.
constant action.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's never a moment of like pause or like recharging at base camp or like having a moment of levity. It was just like constant high stakes, go, go, go all the time, which for like the time period and the subject matter checks out.
Yeah.
But for like a fictional mythology novel, I don't know, I could have used a scene or two like interspersed in there.
Mm-hmm.
I like that her history was happening in front of her and she was learning about her legacy in real time. It was really interesting and different, but not built out at all.
Yeah.
I think that's like the perfect way of saying that.
I kind of want to reread this with context because now, I mean, I was not close reading at all. So now that you guys are saying all this stuff, I'm like, I wonder what I like didn't see by not. I didn't read it physically for most of it, so I probably zoned out 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. So I wish I had probably read the author's note and stuff, but I definitely think there could have been a lot here that was not included, regardless of what I missed.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do have like such like split thoughts about it. I do think the author's note added to the story, and I felt like a different appreciation for it having read that, which I think was why the author's note was like first instead of like being at the end.
Yeah.
Because at the end it was just her being like, thanks to these 50 people for helping me write the book. But the actual author's note at first was like, okay, this is cool. It was like her as like a spiritual person and spiritual teacher and like wanting to write about Black mermaids and all of this cool stuff. And then being like, I directly channeled this book from the goddess was like, damn, okay, okay.
Well, where do you think the book goes from there? Like, I know that it ends with her having Obatala's child, and like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem.
Let me search.
It doesn't seem very goddess-like.
Mythology.
At the end.
I know. I was wondering that too. I was like, okay, I could have used like one more page.
Yeah, one more page.
I don't need 100 more, but I could use like one more page.
Also, it ends with Spanish, right? I was kind of confused by that.
It ends in some other language that I think I roughly pieced it together using context clues to mean like, tell me the story of my father again or something.
Okay, I see that. I was just wondering why it would switch to that language. I didn't, because it's a Latin-based language for sure.
Let's see. Okay. Let me share my screen. We will learn this together. This is the Wikipedia page for Yemaya, also known as Yemoya or Yemanya, the mother of all Orishas. Let me Control F. Obatala, otherwise known as. I want to know.
Okay, well, there's like, okay, so maybe Portuguese was what it ended with. I'm seeing Brazil.
Oh. White roses are used as a ritual offering. She is queen of the ocean, patron spirit of the fishermen, and survivors of shipwrecks.
Did I just miss that she ended up in Brazil at the end? Is that? Oh, Cuba reminds me so much of home. She's in Cuba. Okay. Sorry.
I also
don't even what you went to Wikipedia for, but I was stuck on the Spanish. Okay. Anyways, but yes. So
what are we looking up in Cuba?
Yeah, she ends the book in Cuba. I mean, it is extremely fascinating to see how a culture, because of slavery, ended up becoming embedded in so many other countries' lives.
Yeah.
So I do like that little detail.
Yeah, that's super cool. in.
Remind me what you were searching for. Oh, just how Obata, like what the end of her story is.
Yeah, like the legend of I can't remember what I searched before to find that. Like, oh, like because one of the kids says it so obviously to her of like, oh, we, you and Obatala have many children together, and she's like, oh, we do.
Yeah, this is news to me.
She governs everything pertaining to women, parenting, child safety, love, and healing. According to myth, when her waters broke, it caused a great flood, creating rivers and streams, and the first mortal humans were created from her womb.
Mm.
Especially pregnant women.
Well, she clearly doesn't need a man.
Clearly, there's like no mention of him.
There's no mention of him. She probably had many men. He is
the dunking chair he just happened to have brought from Salem just in time to test a witch. Yeah, that was strange.
That was so funny.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, it's kind of goofy. It's like, oh, luckily I just bought this chair from Salem. Can't wait to test it out. Don't worry, I did my research though. Like, what are you saying?
Yeah, he was.
The suffering of many women in the olden days is not funny to me, but these characters were a little goofy to me. Is my only point.
I mean, Phineas, we can make fun of Phineas all day long. Like,
we can make fun of Phineas.
Absolute trash can of a character. But yeah, this was like it was already like an obviously extremely unhinged thing to do. But the fact that he was like, yeah, let me just like import this antique from the witch trials for the witch that happened to show up on my plantation unannounced.
Yeah. Maybe he's just a collector,
Just a collector of vintage torture devices.
Torture devices, yep.
A lot of convenient destiny moments that felt a bit heavy-handed. Yeah, and that was the weird balance thing, because it's like on one hand, okay, I get that it's like a goddess mythology thing, but also let me feel the tension.
There's an extreme lack of tension, because I never feared for her at any moment in this book, and that defeats the purpose, obviously.
Yeah. Hot beaches. Hi, Lachlan.
Hi, Lachlan. Thank you for this wonderful contribution to the conversation.
Yes. Things were so easy. Yeah, which was such a weird book for things to feel easy.
Like I kept yelling out loud. I was like, okay, so now what? Because and I kept feeling bad for saying that, because this is a book about slavery. And I don't want Black people to suffer more than they already are in the context of the story. But I'm also like, but where's the conflict? And I shouldn't say that in a book about slavery, but there was nothing. Everything was.
I get what you mean. Yeah.
Every person from Harriet Tubman to Frederick Douglass to even Ralph Waldo Emerson is just showing up in her life randomly. And it's just all so easy. Fascinating.
Yeah, it was like the "it's enough slices" meme got to a point where I was like, okay, the violent scenes where we get out of them with little to no consequences, like I've had enough slices.
I've had enough.
It does have that vibe.
Great, yeah.
The idea of water re-energizing her and giving her strength was cool, and I wanted more of her strength and wisdom. It felt like she was just a lost child on a journey rather than a powerful deity. Agree. That's why I was like, is this an origin story or a reincarnation or like what? Because it did feel like her like coming into herself as a goddess, but there was kind of a disconnect there.
Yeah.
Can I read Sorrowland before this one last month? And that author's note was one of the most impactful I've ever read. So this one didn't slap as much as it did for Noelle. Okay.
Well, you have to read Sorrowland.
Now I need to. I know. I like author's notes, and reading the acknowledgments are weirdly one of my favorite things.
Because you're a nonfiction girly.
You're so right. You got it.
No, I would have normally read it, but A, time crunch, B, I was like, it's so long.
Man, it was a long author's note.
Yeah.
Even I kept being like, oh, there's another page? Okay. Okay. But now you've got me really wanting to read Sorrowland. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
She moved to Cuba by the end of the book.
Yes.
I think we just discovered that. Which also, what was the significance of 5 years later? Because this is picky, but just the fact that we had been like 7 was beaten into our heads the entire book that was her number, and then for the epilogue to be like 5 years later, it was like, but it was right there. It was right there. You could have just done, anyways.
That's very true.
You
They
know,
probably just like put the boy at an age where he can form a full sentence that makes sense. Is probably what they went for.
Rachel.
Hi, Rachel. I hope you're enjoying this conversation. Definitely read this book. I feel like you'll get a kick out of it.
You would get a kick out of this, Rachel. I gave it a 3 stars. Jela gave it a 2. The chat also gave it 2 and 3 stars. So I don't think that, that it's not like you're going to have to be sad if you don't like it. Not that you would be anyways.
Yeah. Not that you would be.
Both the author's note and the acknowledgments on Sorrowland are A+. Oh my God. Okay.
Well,
I don't know anything about Sorrowland, but now I want to read it.
I just know it definitely has the whole motherhood, like, I believe this, I think does it have mythology in it, Elizabeth? Am I wrong about that? Anyway, but I know that, like, the woman starts out pregnant, and there's this whole thing about, like, her carrying this child in this horrible dystopian society or something like that. But anyway, I feel like they'll have similar themes to this book in some ways, since this is, like, the birth of all humans or something. But
I see. Hi, Sarah. We've got just all the pals jumping on.
I know. Thanks for stopping by.
This is so fun. I want to read Sorrowland. Same. Living author's notes seems on brand for me. I don't know what that means, but yes.
I see it completely. I understand exactly what you mean.
I like behind the scenes, or like being in people's brains, because I'm a nosy ass bitch and I like the drama.
The fact that you went looking for interviews after reading it is very interesting to me. For a book that you only gave 3 stars, I mean. Because like if I loved this book, I would be like, oh yes, I want to know everything about what this writer's process was. But
yeah, she does talk about her process, where she's like, because her sister is the audiobook narrator, which I learned from the interview.
Yes, I saw.
Yeah, so she's like talking about how every time she like revised and edited the book, she would like sob and cry every single time, and she was talking to her sister about like, dude, good luck, because I can't get through it without like being really emotional. And her sister was like, well, that's fine, like it's a performance, so I'll just like put that all into the like acting and performance.
I really hope I didn't miss that by listening at 2 times speed.
I do that too, though. I'm like, speed it up.
Yikes.
OMG. Calling me out.
Always.
I did get the biggest kick out of your dramatic reading of your lore review, so.
I want to know, did you film that months ago and only just now put it up, or did you reapply all of your face paint?
There's no way. She had to film that. I bet she turned her camera off and like recorded it on a whim.
Yeah, right. Like right after the live went off, she just started filming that review.
She's like, I have this great idea. What if?
10 out of 10 content.
Sorrowland is speculative with a cult tie-in.
Yes, cults. I forgot. There is a cult. That's what made me want to read it, because I like cult stuff. But I heard it was super heavy, and I read I went to like that BNN hardcover sale, and I was going to get it then, but I read the first page, and I was like, oof. This font size? No.
Oh, the font?
The font's small.
Oh. I thought you read the first page and it was like really heavy. But it was
and it is. Like I was reading reviews and stuff too. I wasn't just going into this blind, but it's definitely a heavy, like dark story. But then I also opened the book and saw that the font size was so tiny, and I was like, no, thank you. Not right now, at least.
Why do we do that for like normal size books? Like
I know, it's intimidating.
Boost me up like 1 point, 2 points on the font. Add another 50 pages. Who cares?
Yeah. Well, publishers like to keep money if they can, but you know,
you're right. True. You really dig into books. That's pretty cool. Sometimes it just turns into a deep dive, and just like getting the weird fun facts. I'm really fun at trivia. I have a lot of useless knowledge.
Remind me to take you to trivia with me. Thanks.
Her sister was a witch bro. That's what this just reminded me of.
The East Bro.
You're gonna look at me and tell me that I'm wrong?
I'm gonna stab him. Anyway.
Fern, the main character, was so interesting. I really enjoyed living in her head for a few days. Oh my
Well, I'm
god,
glad you like
really
this book a lot. I've heard many mixed reviews, so I'm glad that I've got a trustworthy source.
Guess we'll never know. She just keeps that costume in her closet as her alter persona.
Yeah. I'll keep my theories. They're more fun.
I got it in the Barnes Noble.
You took the plunge.
Took the plunge. The book I'm reading has such small font and it's killing me. Yeah, that's... I can't do it.
Rachel quoting the whole
thing. What was her sister? Princess.
Well, I was going to ask you who your favorite historical figure to read about was that they encountered on their journey.
Oh, shit. I thought you were asking, like, me in general. I'm like, I don't know.
No. I don't care about that. No, I'm kidding. But just in the specific book, who was your favorite pal that tagged along for the adventure?
This specific book, I really liked how Harriet Tubman was done. And also, as weird as it was, I had a weirdly fun time with Ralph Waldo Emerson being in there.
He was my favorite. I was gonna say, I was like, what is going on? Oh, and she's inspiring his poetry. Like, I didn't know that Ralph Waldo Emerson was an abolitionist. So, like, I actually did Google that. That was the research I did. I was like, why is Ralph in this book? And then I found out his like writing about, I don't know, I liked one of his poems or something he wrote that was like calling a slavery like a blight on the earth or whatever. So like I did some research. Give me a pat on the back for that.
Nice, excellent.
But, yeah, this guy, he was just like, yeah, my wife died, and like I'm just a rotting meat sack, and like I'm not worth living, so I'm just gonna let myself die. And I was like, Ralph.
And she's just like, hold my beer, and like does her like secret web power on him, and he's like, I've never felt so alive.
She cures depression, folks. Like, what can't she do?
She did that so many times, and every time it was the classic fantasy thing of her being like, I'm so exhausted from healing this person back to like perfect health, but actually I'm fine. I just needed to like rest it off.
I know, it wasn't actually anything. Just a little bit of indigestion, but I'm okay now. Thank you, Rachel.
That's why we keep you around, Rachel. It's definitely heavy for sure, but I'm glad I picked it up. Excellent. This is going to be on a very soon TBR, probably.
Maybe this will be one of the book club books past March. Whoa.
That would be cool. This video is coming out tomorrow or Friday. I was shooting for tomorrow, but it might be Friday, low-key. But yes, I do have the picks. Rachel is one of my co-hosts. Spoiler alert. Yeah, so stay tuned tomorrow/Friday. Can y'all do a bad book blurb of this novel?
Wow, I'm not on the spot.
I could.
I'm trying to reference Canada or something.
Mermaid becomes Spider-Man and moves to Cuba, I think is mine.
That's great. Pretty accurate. She's no ordinary girl. She's from a deep blue underworld. That's all I got.
We had to. Ralph was the weirdest, but I loved it. Also, a weird scene was them being in the middle of this philosophical discussion in the attic, like drinking wine or something. And then Richard being like, oh no, those rascals set my stable on fire. And they just like go put the fire out in like 2 seconds. and then Yemaya is like, all right, I guess I'm gonna leave then. That was the strangest scene.
Yeah, which is like, again, that's kind of the way most of the scenes, like most of the changes of scenery and stuff went. I have to go. Oh, okay. I should have come back to this because I was going to ask you who was Cynthia, but now I see that it tells you in the timeline. I forgot to go back and read this because I was like, well, how did we end up with Cynthia? How is she important to the plot? And then obviously she gets captured from there. Like some dude captures them, and then Cynthia finds them and just lets them out of the stable or whatever they're being kept in.
Yeah. That was a trip. It was like some guy being like, huh, good thing I'm a Quaker, right? Good thing I don't need the bounty, right? Psych.
Good thing I'm not gonna I was like, what is happening? That's what I mean. Like, I don't think this book was poorly written, but I don't know. Like, I don't know what else to describe it as, just where like the plot doesn't move it moves in a very jerky way, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But the actual words on the page are kind of like, I like how it was written. I just don't like the execution of the premise.
Agreed. Like that's where I feel torn, is like I liked the length, but I was still left feeling like it was missing something.
Right. Length, language, good. Execution, not so much.
Just vibes.
Yes.
I'm really glad for this book club because it's making me read out of my comfort zone.
Oh, yay.
That makes me so happy. That was pretty much my intention because it's also making me read out of my comfort zone. So selfishly, we're doing it.
Truly would not have picked this up. Well, I hadn't even heard of it until you asked if I wanted to read it with you. So I really wouldn't have picked it up. But again, I don't read mermaid stories and I don't read a lot of mythology. So literally would never have been drawn to this. Interesting.
Good times. Good times. The web power. How are we just mentioning the web power?
Yeah, I was like, what is your friendly neighborhood mermaid just webbing herself up?
Yeah, like that makes me wonder if that was pulled from like other legends, because it felt like such a random thing for a mermaid to have this like web-like healing power. Like I don't
even question it, only because of like I was thinking of like webbed toes and like webbed fin, which I know a fin is not the same as a webbed toe. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Now I see that it makes no sense, but before I didn't question it because I was like, oh, like webbed feet and stuff. That makes sense. She's a mermaid. But that's not even
question it. Like at first, like so much of the book is told through her perspective as like living in the ocean. Like she talks about things as like, oh, that's like shaped like a whale, or those are really shiny, hard, silvery ropes. And so we get like her. So when she talks about things as like webs, I like had the same reaction of like, oh, it must be like what would a mermaid consider webs? But then it just got weird.
What would a mermaid consider? Yeah.
I forgot. Yes, it'll be
We'll see if you're both reading it the night before.
I know. Oh yeah, we said backstage before we started the live, Jela and I admitted to each other that we both read this. I read this yesterday. Jela read it today.
I read it right after work.
Spider-Man? Yeah.
Spider-Woman.
Spider-Woman. Spider-Merman. Spider-Merwoman. Spider-Mermaid? I don't know.
Spider-Mermaid. Spider-Maid. Yeah.
Spider-Maid. There we go.
We got there eventually.
I was really trying hard on that one. In a world where time is irrelevant and all people in the United States are connected, one mermaid comes to find the man she loves.
One Spider-Maid comes to find the man she loves, and that would have been perfect, Elizabeth. But close enough. This is the best.
Spider-Man. Can you hear the of the Spidey sense of web powers? Because what do you mean?
I'm gonna leave that to you.
You break ankle, it's okay because you're a mermaid and you have an ankle even though you're a mermaid. So you just web shoot to cocoon around your ankle and then no more broken ankle.
Well, there you go. That was beautifully done. It's not that she web shoots, to be clear. Webs come out of her, like out of her skin.
What is the difference?
It's not like she's going pew pew. It's like where the ankle was injured, webs were forming around the ankle to create a cast in this specific instance. But she uses the web powers a bunch throughout the story. So,
like all the time, and it's 200 pages.
Yes, we have many types of backgrounds in this book.
Yes. I love that you do the picks 3 at a time because I have time to order them from my local bookstore. I stole it from Jan Agaton. She did it first, and I was like, that's really nice because then I have time, to do 3 at a time. I was like, thanks, Jan. Same. The Legend of the Spider Boy. Spider Boy and what am I trying to say? Mermaid Boy, Mermaid Man, and Barnacle Boy.
There you go, Spider Boy and Mermaid Man. Yep.
Oh shit.
They still had more content in their little brief cameos in SpongeBob episodes than this book did. But it's fine. Rachel, you're having a lot of fun. I can see.
Yeah. Maybe you would like this, Rachel. I don't know.
I think you would just like. I really mean that I was laughing, which is horrible, but I was laughing a lot while I read this, and I think you would too, Rachel.
It was just like so fantastical for what it was trying to tackle that sometimes there was.
Which is a weird way of saying it because it is fantastical.
Yeah.
The Mer Spider Girl, though, yeah.
Spid Mermaid.
I don't think that works as well.
Despite being a mermaid, out of context, it does sound like
it sounds entirely anatomically incorrect.
The commercial quality. Oh god, the ankle. I'm crying. That scene was also weird because she falls into this like trap hole that Ozaka made, and then was like, "Oh, I can't move," and Ozaka was like, this 7-year-old was like, "I don't know, figure it out. We gotta, or they're gonna kill us." And she was like, "Oh, you're right. Let me just run on my ankle for a few miles."
Well, she's a goddess after all.
That came out of her like Tobey Maguire. Well, anywhere she was injured, it would be like little webs.
It was
coming
like
out
form. Not everything started at webs. Ew, I don't know why that imagery freaked me out so much. I don't like it. She webs. She's webs.
Has this ever happened to you? Does your ankle ever break and you just wish, God damn it, I wish I was a spider?
All the time. Do you have a number right now? Go on, finish the bit.
I was picturing moss and not webs just all over her.
I think that kind of was too. Like it was still webs, but it was like a mossy type of web, if you will. All over her. I don't know why that makes it sound so sexy when it's not.
Like. In what context does a mermaid have one ankle? Listen.
I mean, technically, if you want to count the bendy part of the tail as an ankle, I would. Or the flipper flips.
Let me Google what is bendy part of fishtail called.
I'm gonna Google mermaid ankles and see what comes up. How boring.
Oh boy, you're gonna love this. It's called the anal fin. Also known as
brand.
Yeah.
The anal fin, eh? Not the cartilage. Incorrect.
Fish anatomy Wikipedia. Let's see what we got here. Number 5 is the caudal peduncle. Bless you. This is
no, it's not the anal fin. I mean, like I see that there is an anal fin on a fish, but that's not the part I'm talking about. The part where it's.
Oh, do you mean the keels or the finlets?
What? I don't know. I can't see. You have to zoom in on your screen.
Ever step in a hole and break it in the fin? It's not a problem anymore.
Again, all of the time. Yes, the keels. The keels. It's basically an ankle. That's my only point.
Just forward of the tail fin.
Yes.
Okay, confidently, yes.
That is a mermaid ankle. And that answers your question, Rachel, when a mermaid would have even one ankle.
Should I request to edit this Wikipedia page to be like, actually, mermaid ankle?
I would love that so much. Unfortunately, it was just a bunch of people with mermaid tattoos on their ankles, and then some anklets with like cute little fin pendants on them. So sad, but
it's
hopefully
the mermaid ankle to feet pics pipeline.
I mean, there were a lot of feet pics, but it was like with a purpose and not a sexy purpose.
Banned from Wikipedia. You know, I might put that on my resume. Like, that would be kind of a cool flex. You know?
No. I feel like it's not hard.
Deep truths.
Yeah. This is what you came. You didn't come for an interesting intellectual discussion about this book. You came to learn about anal fins and mermaid ankles. And I think that's
mermaid webs. Yeah,
that's the big takeaway from this book.
We are intellectuals. Okay, a liar. No, it's a conspiracy.
I think we're actually informing the people. You're welcome.
A liar on the web. Rachel, you're banned. That's enough out of you.
I hope you actually do ban her.
Mute Rachel. Wow. Do we have any final thoughts or concerns or poetry, as Christine would say, about Shallow Waters?
You know, I wanted to make a poem real quick, but then it was just going to be me singing the H2O theme song, so I decided to not do that. But this book was interesting. Definitely an ambitious premise squished into a small, tiny little book. And just being silly. It's a little silly. But if you want to laugh, I highly recommend. That's my thoughts.
I don't know if I would recommend for a laugh, but
again, I feel so bad saying that, giving the context, giving the subject matter of the book. But it was, yeah. Anyways, you were saying.
No, that was all that I was saying. No thoughts.
Head empty.
If you have to describe your feelings about this book in a haiku, oh Jesus.
What the fuck was that? Spider-Man has no chance. That's 6, damn it. Wait, stop simping for this man, please. That's all I have left.
Excellent work. That
was a real struggle to get there.
Classic.
I don't know if you've seen the challenge videos we did on Rachel's channel, but my syllable game is... I struggle with it.
This book was bleb, but I want to learn more about the mythology. Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. Would definitely read more of this kind of mythology again. Spider-Man has anal fin. 7 syllables soon. Oh, thank you, Rachel. Thank you so much. Yeah, this haiku went on.
I'm sorry.
Just Jela's psyche.
We need Noelle's haiku before we wrap, though.
Oh shit! What is my haiku? Okay.
It's hard on the spot. Okay.
Fish are
friends, not food.
Fish are goddesses, and also in love with men. Don't break your ankle. That's what I got.
Why
That was completely.
Why am I so bad at counting? Anyways.
Plug for Beasts of Prey. That I've seen floating around, but I don't feel like I've seen any actual like reviews.
I think Christine and Mo love that, or at least Christine. Because Mo doesn't read fantasy.
True. African cryptozoology. Oh my gosh.
Ooh.
That sounds fun.
I love me some cryptozoology. Anyone else here lost tapes?
No.
Oh.
What?
It was on Animal Planet, and it was like these fake found footage episodes about people who would like go into the woods and Bigfoot would attack them, or the Mothman would attack them, or the Hellhound would attack them, and like they all die, but you find their tapes later and you watch it, and it proves like, oh, these things actually existed. It's very funny. Highly recommend.
Oh my god, yeah, I'm gonna deep dive that for sure.
Was obsessed with that show.
For Found in Translation Book Club, the book we're reading in March features Chinese cryptozoology, which is going to be a good time, hopefully. Also, like a very short book. It's called Strange Beasts of China.
I want to read that. Yeah.
I think it's going to be.
I don't know if I'll get to it by the time you guys are talking about it.
I know it's at this point. This is like the third live show in a row that I have read the book within 24 hours of the live show. So at this point, it's a pattern. But at least I'm self-aware about it. It's fine. A masterpiece. This was on Animal Planet.
It was as if like I was a child watching this thinking, oh my god, like I really could just go find Bigfoot because Animal Planet says that he actually exists, and this is clearly an informational channel. Yep.
That's like how the History Channel has a bunch of like very weird features now that are not.
Were they the ones who did like the Viking show?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, like that. Yeah.
Like that, but they also have like alien shows.
Oh, they do?
Yeah,
like
they have
History Channel.
Yeah, they have like wild things on the History Channel these days.
Whatever gets the views.
Yeah, true. They're like, okay, history is boring, people. We need to put some spice in there.
Fake documentary. Was this on YouTube? I remember this thing going viral that was like, it was a YouTube thing. It wasn't a show though, but.
Viral mermaid.
It was basically saying like, mermaids aren't what you think of. Like they're not what you would look at when you see Ariel. They're these tiny little shrunken creatures with like creepy. They're creepy. That's all I can say. I don't know. Let me know if that's what you're talking about, Elizabeth.
Strange Beasts of China.
Woo!
It sounded so interesting. I'm very excited. Like it's going to be a good time.
Look at that.
That documentary alone set us back generations. Yeah, there's.
So you know what she's talking about.
Yeah, it was like a spoof. I think it was like it was like a decade ago, like 2013, 14 maybe.
Huh.
We entered this dark timeline, really. It's where the multiverse split, was the mermaid documentary spoof. It's just straight up horseshit.
I just gotta go watch this. As someone obsessed with mermaids as a child, I'm surprised that I didn't have this. Okay.
It also ran on Animal Planet or History Channel, not just YouTube.
But it was like notably a spoof, right? They weren't trying to say that. Okay. I'm sure it was. Okay.
I think it was supposed to be a spoof, but like if I had seen that as a kid, I would have been like, whoa, real mermaids.
Yeah. Well, the more you know.
The more you know. Wow. This took a turn, but I'm happy about it. What a blast.
Yeah. I hope people enjoyed the part where we did talk about the book.
Yeah, it was really more about the friends we made along the way.
Exactly. The mini random friends that we met in each chapter.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Jela, for reading this and discussing this, even if it was strange and not quite what we hoped it would be. And thank you to everyone in the chat who also read and discussed and endured with us. More Hot Book Club deets will be dropping either tomorrow or Friday whenever I get my shit together and post the video. But yeah, for the next 3 picks in a row. And other than that, subscribe to Jela because she's the bombdiggity.com.
Wow.
And I will see
You're a
you
real
soon.
hot dog yourself.
Real hot dog. I know. I need to think of some like a cutesy old age YouTube outro relating to hot dogs. It just feels like the right meme.
Hot diggity dog? No.
Hot diggity dog, baby. And like that's it. That's the outro.
We'll workshop it.
Yeah, we'll just workshop that real quick. All right. Thank you. Bye. See you next time.
Bye.
Love you, rascal.